The video.
The most underrated items in Classic WoW. Alrighty. Let's see.
3 weeks, my friends. 3 weeks and we can finally return home. The universe has been restored to its rightful order, and World of Warcraft can be fun again. It'll be hard to log off rather than hard to log in for the first time in almost a decade. Things are about to change for the better. Vanilla is basically an entirely different game, only similar on the surface to BFA. And one of the key differences is the itemization. With this might come maybe some confusion for some of you guys. You might not know what kind of itemization to prioritize, or
we'll watch this later.
You might even
servers are back up. Okay, let's get back on. Alright.
Glance over an item that you think is no bueno, which is actually quite good. So with that, let's go over some widely misunderstood or underestimated items in Classic WoW. I'll be sticking to pre-raid and raid items solely rather than lower level items because that's where it actually matters.
Yeah.
And this information will of course
nobody gives a shit about leveling
as you're gearing out for raids in the first phase of Classic. Here we go. So we got the most underrated items in Classic WoW endgame. Let's get into it. Alright, so the first item we got is called Heart of Wormthalak. It drops off the last boss in LBRS Lower Blackrock Spire, Wormthalak. So on first glance, it may seem pretty average. It says chance to bathe your melee target in flames for 120 to 180 fire damage.
I feel like that'd be good for rogues, right?
But this item has its situational uses where it's actually quite good, and for certain classes, it's actually one of the best trinkets in the game. So in general, as
wait a second.
As pretty much any melee DPS, this is a pretty good trinket, especially in the earlier days when your character is less affected by power creep. The actual just flat damage from this is pretty significant. On a Fury Warrior, a Rogue, you name it, it's pretty damn good.
I think for a dueling class, that'd be
PvP,
insane.
On Rogues, it's really good, especially in combination with your poison. So as a Rogue, if you're locking up a Warrior, let's say, or any plate-wearing enemy in a full stun combo, and you have constant little micro elemental blasts going on that target from either weapon procs, this trinket, or your poisons, for instance, your instant poison or whatever poisons that you plan on using, all of those little spell damage procs actually will add up to be a decent amount, especially on a plate-wearing target since it's bypassing his armor. What's really interesting about this trinket is that it actually has a chance to crit, so the spell damage or the fire damage proc can crit. And another interesting aspect is that you can proc the on-hit effect while in cap form, so it's actually a really good trinket for feral druids, let's say.
Who cares about feral druids?
Now, as I just stated, it's actually one of the better trinkets for a couple different classes. And the one class that it's really, really good on, at least from what we understand with current proc rates,
probably rogues, right?
Is the Ret Paladin. So with a lot of theory crafting that's been done and simulation based on damage, it's actually one of the best trinkets and arguably one of the best in slot trinkets for many raid tiers for Ret Paladins. I like to think of this trinket as the welfare version of the Darkmoon card Maelstrom. And as a Ret Paladin, from what I understand, the best two trinkets that you could use are actually Heart of Wormthalak and Darkmoon card Maelstrom. I was raiding in a pretty strong guild on Phoenix a while ago, and we had a feral druid in that guild who was using this trinket, and he pulled some really surprising numbers, and clearly he knew what he was doing. He was one of the few feral druids that would actually compete on the damage meter in the entire server. So yeah, if you're a melee DPS and you just happen to be doing LBRS and it drops, then don't overlook it. It's quite good.
I would need roll on that. So this
one for my vanilla veterans out there who know everything about the game, every little detail, and are constantly correcting me, then you're probably gonna already know this one and find that it's really obvious. But for those of you guys that are actually newer to vanilla,
some other random weird item
seriously and are really looking forward to get into it this time, this might be news to you. So
carrot on a stick.
There's this item called Edgemaster's Handguards.
Oh yeah, apparently these are like ridiculously good. I had no fucking idea about this.
Unique sort of itemization style to them.
Yeah, this is insane.
At first glance, you might look at this, and if you don't understand how vanilla itemization works, you might just say, there's no real stats that I can recognize here. There's no crit, there's no attack power, there's no strength, agility, nothing.
Are they actually
it seems kind of weird. But if we take a look at the tooltip and we read, it says increases axes +7, daggers +7, and swords +7. That's referring to weapon skill, and weapon skill is probably one of the most important stats for melee in the entire game.
I wonder why they don't increase the mace stat by +7. That's the thing, is because they have axes and daggers and swords.
their hit chance
that's
against
weird.
higher level mobs, so bosses are level 63, and reduces the damage reduction on their glancing blows. So for single target boss DPS, these are pretty much the best melee warrior gloves in the game until I think Cthulhu. And it's a level 44 world drop, so you could pretty much get these while doing Zul'Farrak.
Yeah, you just buy them off the auction house, easy.
Game. And if you are so lucky to have that happen to you, you pretty much just buy your epic riding, because I've seen these gloves sell for easily 1,000 gold.
What the fuck?
Now we could piggyback off of this and just talk about weapon skill
I get
in general. There's so many items out there that you might overlook because you don't understand weapon skill and how important it is.
See, I actually, I feel like that kind of stuff is actually really cool, like the weapon skill and everything. I don't think they should add weapon skill back into WoW, but they should add something that's like weapon skill. And I wish they would like have something that was more interesting. I don't know, I feel like all the stats in the game are kind of, they're not as interesting as they used to be.
We've got Age Core leather gloves and Molten Core, which as a dagger rogue are incredibly good, but you might look at them at first glance and see strength and just be a bit confused. But these gloves are incredibly good if you're using daggers. We've got Obsidian Age Blade, which is also in Molten Core, and it's a pretty damn good two-hander, where in the early days you could actually get away with running two-handed Fury DPS. You might actually see the sword drop, and it might be better than your current setup with dual wielding. Once Dire Maul is released, we've got Distracting Dagger, which is an incredible offhand dagger for dagger rogues with a 1.3 weapon speed proccing
poisons. It distracts them from other daggers.
We got Mugger's Belt, which is just a great belt. We got Maladath, which is in Blackwing Lair, and everyone knows how good this is in an offhand. And in AQ40, we've got the Anubisath Warhammer.
That drops some trash.
Off first glance, you might not think much of it, but by the time you get into Naxx, there's two really strong maces. There's the Castigator and Misplaced Servo Arm, which also drops off trash. So if you have one of those maces in your main hand, this is pretty much the best offhand mace that you can pair with it, giving the increased mace skill to affect both maces. So I
wish they never got rid of the Misplaced Servo Arm. I actually feel so stupid, man. We used to run Naxx like every Friday night, Naxx 60 back at 70, and I don't have any of the old items. I only have like one belt or something like that. I really should have tried harder to like try to get people to trade me gear and shit. I feel kind of stupid for not doing that.
General, I guess just don't overlook weapon skill. Whenever you see weapon skill on an item, it's generally incredibly good. And in my time, I've seen so many dagger rogues overlook the Age Core leather gloves, and it just it boggles the mind, you know. Just because they see 15 strength, they think, this doesn't seem very good. But that +5 dagger skill is insanely powerful. So this item, you're probably going to see it around quite a bit because it's relatively easy to get. It's a two-hander that drops in Zul'Farrak with a really nice equip on hit effect. It's called Halberd of Smiting, which is a nice polearm with a 3.5 second attack speed and an equip chance on hit effect that says chance to decapitate the target on a melee swing, causing 452 to 676
It's a ridiculous amount of fucking damage. Like, that's insane. Like, I don't know if this like scales with attack power or anything, but 400 to 600 damage is like a mortal strike at level 60 unless you have really good gear. That's fucking ridiculous. It's really, really good.
This two-hander is really good on a rep paladin, and it's also quite good as an entry-level...
So it's not good.
Two-hander for PvP on a warrior. The proc is pretty good for a two-hander. It procs relatively often, but what's really interesting, again, just like Heart of Wyrmthalak, is that it can actually crit. So it's nice little additional damage on top of your burst combos.
Man?
And you could imagine with a rep paladin who's stacking Reckoning or getting Seal of Command procs that this proc would be really nice in combination with those extra hits. So
hey, the reason why it's good for rep paladins is it procs. What does it proc off of? Auto attacks. Auto attack Andes.
It drops in Zul'Farrak, which is the entry-level raid that a lot of people can do. So if you have just a warrior alt and you want to PvP on it, but you don't have a two-hander, this weapon could easily open the door for you to have great fun on an arms warrior in Warsong Gulch or Arathi Basin.
Dude, like, that's just man, like, I'm honestly, like, just thinking about, like, all the cool weapons that the game used to have. Like, this always makes me, like, really fucking nostalgic because these items in the game used to make, they just used to make the game so much more fun and interesting. And like, now we have, like, the King's Rest sword, which is, like, kind of cool. Like, that's nice, but I feel like now there's just, like, so many other damage variables and everything else. Everything's just, like, kind of diluted. But, like, in Classic WoW, like, having these items that could do these cool things were just... I don't know. I just get a feeling of like fucking running ZG and getting a cool item out of there that I can use in some sort of a situation or test out. And I'll take this into a BG and I'll use this against a mage and it'll do a lot of damage. Like, I don't know. It feels good, man. It just feels good. Everything's a stat stick. Yeah, I mean, again, like Blizzard's they're so worried about like trying to like hyper balance the game that they forgot about. They want to make it like. Don't want to make it fun. Like I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just being nostalgic here, but these kinds of things were really fun and they made the game really interesting. It's super enjoyable to see again.
Damage proc is quite hard
like
hitting.
The theory crafting that goes into it, I think, is
full combos. So let's say on a Mortal Strike combo, you get a Wind Fury proc and you get this to proc, and
that's a one shot.
Crits. You could imagine how much damage.
That's a fucking one shot, yeah.
Back to back in one global. Super satisfying and relatively underrated, I'd say. Yep. So if you see Halberd of Smiting and you need a two-hander, don't overlook it. So this one's in the same line.
I'd say honestly though, like for a warrior, wouldn't just going sword spec be better? I mean, I don't know. You don't get the 5% crit, but you also get like all the other stats out of it. I don't know. Like maybe sword spec would be better. It's really kind of hard for me to say. You're being slightly nostalgic. I know I am. I know. Because players QQ'd hard about unbalanced and Blizzard forced Blizzard to hyperbalance things. But the thing is, like, Blizzard's never hyperbalance things. So let's look at how balanced. That's a really great point that you bring up. Let's look at how balanced the game is right now. Let's open this up and we will look at hyper balance. Let's see, MDI. Let's see, season. Okay, let's look at the hyper balance of the game. All classes are, of course, viable now. And let's open this up and oh, look at that. Wow. Wow. Thank God Blizzard has spent so much time hyper balancing the game, right? This is so balanced. Like, where's a warlock? Is there a warlock in the top 20? Where's the first warlock? Warlocks suck, dude. Oh, they're so stupid, dude. Who would ever play a warlock? Oh my god, dude, what is this? They're not even in the top. Oh, they're, oh wow. Oh, they're okay. This is an Asian team. They always have off the wall strategies. Okay, so you have one warlock in here, and wait, we're about to find a second warlock here. Any day now. Nope. Wow. 185. Jesus Christ. Like, yeah, they need to do a better job at making the game more balanced. Oh, yeah, sure.
As the Halberd. It's another weapon with a sweet on-hit proc. It's called Alcor's Sunraiser. Okay. It's a high-level world drop which is quite unique. It's actually one of the best tanking items in the game. So if you guys look at the tooltip, you'll see that it has a 1.3 second fast attack speed. I'm pretty sure that that's the fastest weapon in the game, if I'm not mistaken. And if you guys understand weapon speed when it comes to tanking, the faster the better. So having the fastest weapon in the game on a tank allows you to generate a good amount of rage and also allows you to generate rage quickly. Like immediately you just stab the target that you're trying to engage with, get a bit of rage, and can sunder immediately.
Listen. A warrior doesn't use a dagger. Okay? You just don't. You use a sword. And that sword's name is Thunder Fury. That's it. You don't use daggers.
It also has a chance on hit effect that blasts the target for 75 to 105 fire damage. Which, considering the actual attack speed of the weapon, procs more often than you'd think. And on top of that, it has plus 10 fire resistance, which is really good in the early days. This dagger is one of the best tanking weapons that you can use in the first couple phases of Classic WoW. Not only because of the weapon speed and the proc, but the fact that it gives fire resistance, which is really important during Molten Core and can be quite useful in Blackwing Lair. You're going to see a lot of these. A lot of the main tanks in the top guilds on your server are most likely going to use this. That's how it was in Nostalrius. I remember inspecting so many main tanks, or just tanks in general, in some of the top guilds, and even in my guild I was raiding in Pleasure Town Adventures, if you guys know that guild, and our main tank was rocking this. It's also a pretty decent offhand for Hemo Rogues in PvP, who are stacking elemental procs, maybe Maelstrom Trinket, Heart of Wormthalak, things like that. Maybe in...
Am I the only person that finds it a little bit asinine and pointless for people to min-max in PvE in Classic WoW? Like, I don't know, I just feel like it's pointless. Like, because the content, like, it's baseline. There's no, like, harder version of the content except for doing it faster. I don't know, I just feel like, who cares? You just go in there, unless you're wiping on the content, then... I don't know, it feels like these, like, little min-max things don't matter. Like, the only thing in my mind that matters in Classic WoW with min-maxing is PvP. That's the only thing that I think matters. Like, that's why people go engineering. That's why you want to get all these different items is PvP. I feel like that's where the min-maxing really does matter, because you're playing against another person that scales in the same way that you do. Like, content is just flat.
Combination with a misplaced servo arm. It's a really great dagger, and I think a lot of people just aren't...
Wait, contrarian, okay. Sorry, I don't find it fulfilling to be like, oh, well, last week we were able to do Molten Core in 40 minutes, but this week, oh, we did it in 39. Yes. I just don't give a fuck. You just go through the raid, you clear the bosses, and it's not a big deal. I would rather bring a slightly slower group of my friends and people that would be okay with me taking maybe the bindings for Thunder than for me to try to do a super, super fast run of, like, all super serious people. It's the difference of, like, 20 minutes and maybe an hour or two at most. I don't know. I don't really think that it matters a whole lot. Time is money. Yeah, but you're spending time outside of the time that you're spending doing the raid to get into the raid and do the raid. I mean, it's the time invested one way or another.
Aware of it, so I'd say it's relatively underrated because of that. So
yeah,
if you're a tank and you see one on the auction house for like 100, 150 gold, I'd snag that bad boy. Although you're probably not going to get it for that price.
Yeah, it's basically like allowing Ret Paladins in your raid is basically like having a quota for letting disabled people work at a job. You know, you have like a couple of them and, you know, it's okay. And with Ret Paladins, it's pretty much the same thing.
By no means is this a top tier item. It's just not as bad as you might think it is. It's called Venomous Totem, and it has an on-use effect that says increases the chance to apply rogue poisons to your target by 30% for 20 seconds on a 5-minute cooldown. It drops off Broodlord Lash Layer in Blackwing Lair, and it's a rogue specific trinket. There's a bunch of different class
I didn't even know about this one.
Blackwing Lair. Now this trinket is actually pretty decent. It's good in PvE and it's also pretty good in PvP. It's useful in both. It's kind of similar to what I was talking about earlier with Heart of Wormthalak and Maelstrom, where you can run this sort of on-hit effects rogue build where
I don't even know.
Relying on your poisons and magic on-hit effects. In private servers, this was actually a massive thing because on certain servers, poisons and on-hit effects actually scaled with spell power. But in actual retail vanilla or classic WoW, I don't think that that's going to be the case. But either way, it's pretty damn good. I mean, 30% is a huge increase, especially if you already have improved poisons. You can constantly be proccing instant poisons over and over and over again, or if you really want to make sure that your crippling poison lands on your opener because it's super important, let's say against a warrior or whatever target that you may be fighting, this is a pretty decent trinket. It's useful to have in your inventory, and if you have another one that's on cooldown, you just want to reset and swap this one on, it's pretty
If the trinket's so fucking good, why is he losing against a level 58 elite? He's level 60 rogue in Bloodfang gear. Why don't you put on a trinket that makes it to where you don't fucking die to a level 58 elite? This is the worst trinket I've ever seen in my whole life. This trinket sucks.
And it's good. Like, if you don't have anything better and nobody wants this, or if you just want to have a cheesy trinket that's quite situational, you could pick this one up. I've just seen tons of people pass on it before, when you might as well take it. This one's another trinket, and it's generally only used in PvP, and again, it's quite situational. It's called Barov's Peasant Collar, and it has an on-use effect that says calls forth 3 servants of the House of Barov that will fight, cook, and clean for you. And I mean,
clean for you? Wait, what the fuck? No, by the way, guys, I just want to let you know. Guess who has this trinket right now? Your boy Asmongold. I've got it still in the game. I've held on to it ever since Vanilla WoW. And I've had it the whole fucking time. Giving that trinket? Yeah, you goddamn right. Wait, I need the trinket IRL? No comment.
I mean, that's sort of, I guess, just a little playful tooltip.
Okay.
What it actually does is just calls 3 minions that end up fighting for you.
They're useless.
Now, this is quite useful as a PvP trinket, and a lot of people tend to use it. It's situational, but I'd say the main strength of it is the fact that it calls 3 minions.
Yeah,
so if you understand how spell pushback works in Classic WoW, every time someone who's trying to cast a spell, if they don't have a shield on themselves, takes damage, their spell will be pushed back for each auto attack depending on their talents, if they have talents to compensate for that mechanic. The fact that it calls 3 individual mobs that are all hitting that target can actually push back the spell cast quite significantly. So if you're playing a warrior and you're fighting against a mage, you summon the 3 minions on him, and maybe he's trying to cast a pyroblast or a spell on top of, after he's polymorphed you, and you might just be pushing back his cast over and over again. He's still taking damage, and it's just annoying to deal with. I've also seen healers use this, so while they're trying to just live and heal, they'll call the minions to attack the person that's trying to kill them. They'll put maybe a Shadow Word Pain, if it's like a priest, I guess, and just try to live while the minions in the dot just do damage. It's almost like the way Shadow Fiend works in the Burning Crusade.
Yeah,
not exactly, but the same kind of play style. Really situational, kind of a weird trinket, but it's quite easy to get. You get it from a quest called the Last Barov in Western Plaguelands. Anyone can get it. You should probably do it while you're leveling up, and just sort of have it in your inventory, and if ever you have a use for it, use it up. Some people just kind of think it's useless and vendor it or disenchant it, but I like to use it. So this next item is actually a druid specific leatherwork
This
helmet.
shit
it's
is
called
ridiculous.
Wolfhead's helm. It's actually a level 40 helmet, so you might not.
So I had no fucking idea about this helmet. This helmet is like the fucking Helm of Domination for like the Lich King, but it's for druids. For whatever reason, this is like the best helmet in the entire game for druids, even I think at level 70. Because if you were able to power shift back and forth, you're able to get pretty much infinite energy doing this. It's insane.
Think much of it when you look at it, and it doesn't really
even
give
in TBC,
any
I thought
stats
so.
aside from just some spirit.
People use it in Wrath?
What's really important though is the equip. So if we read the tooltip, it says when shapeshifting into cat form, the druid gains 20 energy. When shapeshifting into bear form, the druid gains 5 rage. What's really important here is the cat form one, where it says that you gain 20 energy.
Why do you say
this helmet is
Bambi?
actually the best in slot Feral Druid DPS helmet from Molten Core and all the way through Nax. There is no better helmet. The reason why it's so good is you pair that equip effect with the restoration talent, the first tier restoration talent called Führer. So when maxed out, Führer gives you a 100% chance to gain 40 energy every single time you shapeshift back into cat form. This enables the Feral Druid to do something called power shifting, where you're going to be dumping out your entire energy pool in cat form, shapeshifting out of cat form, and then going back into cat, gaining 60 energy every single time you do that with the helmet, allowing you to keep shredding and keep generating combo points. It's a really cool item that literally changes the way that you play the game as a Feral Druid. And it's also the item that helps make Feral Druids relatively viable if played right. It's a bit micro-intensive, I'd say kind of on the tedious side, but if you really...
Listen, this is actually really good for Feral Druids, and I'm going to explain why. Is that in vanilla WoW, everybody knows there's only 3 buttons you have to press, and half the time you spend AFK. The issue with that is that Feral Druids all have ADD. So the power shifting allows them to keep focus on the game and not actually lose focus and go AFK and just go roll around on their floor. So this is why it's actually a really good item for Feral Druids. There's a meta level that this really helps Feral Druids on, as well as being a good item that increases their DPS.
Enjoy that type of playstyle.
So that's for Rep Paladins? No, it's actually the opposite for Rep Paladins. Rep Paladins, the best thing about a Rep Paladin is you can literally just walk up to the boss and tab out and go back to watching porn, and you'll be doing about 70% of your effective DPS.
Well, it kind of makes it a lot more fun than maybe just spamming Shadow Bolt over and over again on a Warlock. So there you go, a level 40 leatherwork helmet that you might overlook is actually the best Feral Druid helmet in the entire game.
Cute.
So if ever you plan on playing Feral,
very cute,
make sure that this is your #1 priority. Not to mention, it's actually a really cheap helmet. It's really easy to get, and you don't need leatherworking to actually make it for yourself.
Bolts
you could
of
literally
silk?
just buy it off the auction house for super cheap. Boom, you have the best helmet in the game. Pretty easy. This helmet shouldn't be overlooked. Let's move on. Now, this is something you're probably going to see around, at least to a certain extent. You might get it as a drop, and you won't know what to do with it. It's called Warmonger, and it's a two-handed sword that has 45 damage per second.
This is really good for hunters.
Attack speed, 3 strength, and improves your hit chance by 3%. Now, you might look at it initially, 3 strength, low damage, fast attack speed, kind of useless, especially for a melee. But it does have its uses. It's actually quite good as an entry-level pre-raid item on hunters. So if you want to itemize your hunter around this sword in the early days, you can just get a bunch of hit from it and then not have to worry about getting hit on other items, stack attack power on those items, or stack crit on all of the other items, and just sort of itemize your character around it. There's a lot of hunters that are going to be purchasing this sword either on the auction house, or if it drops for them, they'll end up using it. It's one of the more competitive pre-raid items when it comes to hunter. It's quite unique. I think it's the only item in the game that has 3% of pretty much any stat, from what I understand. And 3%, it goes a really long way in your hit rating. It's kind of a niche item.
It goes 3% of the way. So yeah, obviously hunters. Yeah, it's not hunters, it's hunters. Hunters do, they, you know, hey, it got 3 strength, but it got 3% hit. The fact is, like, yeah, hunters, they do a lot of damage. And even, like, I remember it wasn't strength. So if I remember right, strength was 1 AP, but did that translate over to ranged AP? See, that's what I don't remember. Because, like, there was ranged and melee attack power. It was just so long ago, it's hard for me to remember a lot of this. No, it didn't. Okay, yeah. It's just so long. Raptor Strike. Strength is 2 AP? I know, I thought strength was only 2 AP for certain classes. Strength was only 2 AP for druids, paladins, and warriors. But for other classes like rogues, strength was only 1 AP. Maybe I'll be wrong about that. Yeah, I thought 1 Agi. Yeah, Agi was 1 AP. It was a long time. There's a reason for this, right? You guys remember my friend Cora? You guys remember Cora? Well, Cora used to play a feral druid. And I made fun of her and I called her stupid for gemming attack power instead of strength because attack power didn't scale with kings. And I made fun of her for that for about 10 years. 10 years. I told her that she could join my classic guild, and she promised me that, this was like a few weeks ago, then she promised me that she would not gem attack power anymore. And I told her that there wouldn't be any gems. So, problem solved.
You might not think much of it, but it is quite sought after when it comes to hunters, and I've seen many of them use it throughout Blackwing Lair.
Yep.
So if you end up getting this one, understand that it has pretty decent value and don't undersell it. Or if you're a hunter and you're struggling with what weapons to choose, or you're below the hit cap, maybe you can buy this one off the auction house. It generally sells for a pretty reasonable price.
I feel like one of the really cool things about Vanilla WoW that I liked a lot, is Core ever going to be a stream again? We'll see, but I don't know, maybe. I can never say never. Probably yes. At some point, Korra will probably be on stream again. One of the coolest things about Vanilla WoW that I really liked about it, and I enjoyed a lot, was the fact that you were able to start making progress towards your rating and like your like high-end PvP progress below level 60. And it felt like the entire game had like a lot more, I guess, like transitionary meaning. So what I mean by that is that at level 50, you can still do things that influence the outcomes of things that you do whenever you're level 60. And now in current WoW, I feel like everything that you do, you only really do at max level. And this started happening in Wrath. In Burning Crusade, it was more the case. And this is just the nature of things being expansions. But one thing I didn't really enjoy as much was the fact that the entire progress of your character in in-game took place exclusively at the maxed level. I liked in Vanilla WoW where you were able to prepare and get ready for the end game before you actually got to the level to do it, because I think that it also created a sense of excitement and something to look forward to and something to work towards, where you're like, okay, well, I'm going to do this so it can help me in the future. And something to look forward to and something to be excited about. I think is something that the games really matter. Like it makes it matter a lot in the games. The end game, yeah. And I wish that Blizzard could do something more like that in the current game. I don't know how they could do that, but if they ever introduced an expansion with a more expansive leveling process that you could do, or maybe like an essence system that you could do from level 1, and then you'd be building those up more, I think I'd like that a lot more than what they currently have. So just more things that you can do that aren't max level that still help your character in a way that is max level. I don't know, I just kind of like that a lot more.
Alright guys, that's it for this one. These are some of the items that come to mind which people tend to overlook.
Good point. Yeah,
the most glaringly obvious ones to me, again, are the aged core leather gloves. Man, the amount of dagger rogues that I've seen skip
Pokey
over
boys.
these
That's what they're
boggles
called,
the
not
mind.
dagger rogues.
From what I
Pokey boys.
understand, they're pretty much the best dagger gloves that you can get in the game till next, so keep an eye out for them if you plan on playing daggers. Hopefully you guys learned some new information on this one. Hopefully this gives you a better understanding of itemization in Classic. If you liked the video and want to see more like it, make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, of course, to be notified every time I post a new video. I post several videos every single week. You know the drill, soldiers. Follow me on Twitch, since I'll be doing some scuffed green screen streams come Classic release. Join the Discord to be a part of the spiciest Classic community there is. Trust me on that one. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you on the other side. Peace.
I think this guy's improved the quality of his videos a lot. I remember the first time I watched one of his videos, it was actually a video about me. Like, not really talking shit about me, but, you know, not really saying anything good either. And I didn't really know what to think about it, but I feel like he's done a much better job recently in creating some pretty good content, and that's why I'm completely okay with watching his videos, right?